I want to underscore desperation. We need to understand that the empire is dying. We lost the war in Vietnam. We lost the war in Afghanistan. We lost the war in Iraq, and we're about to lose the war in Ukraine. People have to understand what that means. China and the BRICS, their allies, are now a richer economic powerhouse than we are, or we being the United States and the G7 around us. That's a new world. That's completely different from the way we were coming out of World War II. We got used to being the superpower. We were the only one. Russia was never economically what China is now, never even close. And that has to be grasped instead of pretending. You know, the United States pretend we're going to go and change the government in Venezuela. No, we're not. This is not, we're not, the Monroe Doctrine is over. The dominance of the United States, it's over. And yes, you can mourn it if you want to, but the important thing would be to sit down as a nation, to understand that what's happening to us happened to every other empire in the history of the world. The question is not whether the empire passes away. We know it will. Everyone always has. The question is how you manage that, or you don't. You can turn in on yourself and everybody can kill everybody else. Has that happened? Yes. That's one way empires expire. But another way is to sit down with the rest of the world and try to work out a way to live together, especially now when the alternative is nuclear war, and then we pull the curtain down on everybody.
So how would this work?
Very simple. You'd have to sit down on one side of the table, the People's Republic of China and the BRICS alliance, the Indians, the Russians, and all of that. And on our side of the table, the West, the collective West, with a proper representation of the global South, as they call themselves, Asia, Africa, Latin America, and so on. And you'd have to do what? Well, I'm just rehearsing the dream that came after the last time this all exploded in war. That was called World War I, the worst war the world had ever seen. And afterwards, we tried to create the League of Nations. That didn't work. Then we had another catastrophic war, World War II, after which we created the United Nations. The idea is the right one. Sit down, work it out. The League of Nations couldn't prevent World War II. The UN, with all its flaws and weaknesses, has at least avoided that. Okay, now, under new conditions, radically new, the arrival of a whole new economic superpower, China and the BRICS, now's a chance to sit down and try to do it. But I don't feel I have the need to make the case to do it. I think the burden lies on the people who aren't doing it. What the hell do you offer? What? The war in Ukraine? Another one in Iran? Another one in Venezuela? Last week, Mr. Trump threatened Nigeria. What's going on? The president who was going to end all wars, those endless wars, remember he used to talk about it, is making one after another. You know why? Because he's desperate. That's the thing. The desperation can blind you, and then you do things that only make it worse. If we let him, and that goes not just for him, but for many of the others, including many at the head of the Democratic Party, they're going to lead us into the dead end we're already half down the road to. That's why it's time. It's past time to go in a different direction.
Wanted to ask you about the recent shutdown and the Democrats' response to the shutdown and the shutdown of the shutdown, if you will. So we just ended the longest government shutdown in American history. And as people probably know, 8 senators, 8 Democrats voted to reopen the government. In exchange, all they got was a promise for a vote on healthcare coverage in December. and a freeze to federal firings for a few months. So, what is your response to the shutdown and also to the way the shutdown was resolved?
Well, I think the way I would handle this is to try to put the shutdown in a little bit of historical perspective, and having to do with the problems that the Trump administration faces and how it is going to or try to solve them. And I keep in mind two things. One, that a great deal of what Mr. Trump does is political theater, designed not to solve problems so much as to present himself in an agreeable light as the fixer, as the solver, as making the effort, and all of that. On the other hand, I don't want to lose the fact that the United States economy faces very, very deep, serious problems. I've been a professor of economics all my life. I have never seen the American economy in as bad a shape as it is in now. And many of my colleagues, left wing, right wing, and in the middle, we don't agree on how we got into this, and we don't agree on how to get out of it, but we do agree that it is in an awful condition. And just to get to the core of it, Mr. Trump had a real problem. He inherited difficulties, which, by the way, he contributed to in his first presidency. He is no innocent here in this story. And the problem was that over the last 30 to 40 years, the United States economy has not grown very well. I'm being as polite as I know how. Just to give you an idea, the People's Republic of China, the number two economy in the world, grew 3 times faster in every year of the last 30. That is an historically unprecedented. That's why China is the colossus we face now, the real one. Nothing like what the Soviet Union ever was in the 20th century. And the American economy has been, if you like the metaphor, instead of having gasoline in the tank, it's been living on the fumes. And the fumes, when you're an economist, is called debt. And over the last 30 years, because you couldn't grow the economy, you borrowed to keep the illusion going. So, for example, the standard of living of the average American family had to incorporate more and more debt, mortgage debt for the home, credit card debt for every day, automobile debt to have transportation, and then the really new big one, college debt, so your kid could get a bachelor's degree in something. These were the ways that you kept the so-called American dream and standard of living going.